Hey, community group leaders and teachers, I hope you're doing well and having a fabulous day. Hey, I'm excited to introduce this week's Leadership Minute. This is one more tool that we can have in our tool belt to lead more effectively. Throughout the month of July, we are looking at leadership lessons we can find from Paul's relationship with Timothy in 1 Timothy, and specifically exploring some things that Paul challenged Timothy in that I believe are equally applicable for us as we lead our community groups and looking for ways to help grow and encourage and nurture those around us to run hard after Jesus. And so in 1 Timothy chapter 1, one of the things that we see happening with Paul and with Timothy is Timothy is leading the church in Ephesus. There's a couple issues going on. One of which is that there are some leaders that are abandoning the Christian faith and are quickly hopping on board with something that is clearly not following Jesus. As a result of that, Paul says they've shipwrecked their faith. And Paul says this phrase twice in the Greek and in the English in verse 5, and then again in verses 18 and 19. He says the goal of our instruction in verse 1-5 is love that comes from a pure heart, a good conscience, and sincere faith. Some have departed from those and turned to fruitless discussion. In verse 18, he again says that I'm giving you this instruction, Timothy, so that in keeping with the prophecies previously made about you, you might recall them to fight the good fight, having faith and a good conscience. Paul basically is saying in the middle of this that there's the potential for teachers being derailed by all kinds of things. But if the goal of your instruction is building other people up, if it is love that comes from a pure heart, a good conscience, and sincere faith, you'll be okay. And so Paul, in a roundabout way, is encouraging Timothy as a leader, as a teacher, and other teachers that may come alongside of him. Your goal is not to fight one against another. It's not to compare yourself against everybody else, to walk into a room and measure yourself based on the standards of other people around you. Rather, it is to look for ways to always build other people up through these three things: through a pure heart and a good conscience and sincere faith. Paul genuinely wanted us to build other people up, help them develop those things in a greater capacity. And so my encouragement to you as a teacher, as a leader in your community group, look for ways that you can always be speaking the best into their lives. Look for ways to love them, to build them up, to help them know that they are loved, that they are valued. Help them develop a pure heart, a good conscience, and a sincere faith. Whether you're reminding them about their past and how God has spoken to them in their past, as Paul did with Timothy towards the back end of chapter 1, or you're simply nurturing them and guiding them, encourage them. They can find hope and peace in and through Jesus. They can find hope and life there, that God has a good plan for their lives and wants to grow them and develop them and mature them to be followers of Jesus who ultimately become difference makers for a world of people far from God. It's my hope and it's my prayer that all of us can develop that kind of attitude when we teach, that as we teach other people, we'll be in the business of building other people up and helping them grow towards a greater level of maturity. Hey, if you have any questions about this Leadership Minute or any other tip that we've talked about throughout this series or any of the other series in Leadership Minutes, please feel free to shoot me a text or an email. I look forward to hearing from you. I also look forward to hearing what God is doing in and through your community group as I continue to meet with many of you. And I look forward to seeing you next week for another round of Leadership Minute. Hey, blessings, friends.